The worst transit project in the country is not the Purple Line in Maryland, it's not the 2nd Avenue subway, and it's definitely not California high-speed rail. The worst transit project in the country goes to a medium-sized project in a town that you've probably never heard of, and it's an extension to one of the weirdest rapid transit lines in existence. Today we're talking about the Norristown High-Speed Line extension to King of Prussia, and we're going to discuss the structural and systematic issues with the agency that runs it, SEPTA. First, let's start with some background on the type of transit that we're focusing on today. The Norristown High-Speed Line began service in 1907 as the Philadelphia and Western Railroad. Eventually, it made its way from Norristown to 69th Street in Philadelphia. It was also part of a larger system called Lehigh Valley Transit, and specifically, it was part of the Liberty Bell route. This meant that back in the day, you literally had multiple options of electrified trains that could take you from Philadelphia to Allentown and Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Oh, how we have gone backwards in many ways. The Norristown High-Speed Line is weird, to say the least. Back in the day, it was designed as an interurban. Oh wait, what's that word? Interurban. What does that mean? Well, generally it's an electrified trolley line that goes from one town to a city or a city to another city. Interurbans are generally prioritize speed over other operational aspects. But one thing that makes interurbans are that they are fucking weird. The Norristown High-Speed Line takes this weird aspect to a whole nother level. Back in the day, the P&W and later SEPTA accepted hand-me-down rolling stock from other railroads and mass transit systems. You can see everything from the original Brill Bullets to the North Shore Electroliner to an old CTA or Market Frankfurt cars rolling up and down the route. It was truly a full-scale model railroad in some aspects. Even weirder was that you had to hit a button on every station platform to warn trains to stop, just as if you were flagging down a bus at a bus stop. There is so much history and interesting things about the Norristown High-Speed Line that it could be its own video. Anyway, the Norristown High-Speed Line is incredibly weird, especially when compared to other modern mass transit systems. Its operations are old and antiquated in some ways, but that leads us to what we're discussing today. So, little do most people know, but a part of terrible Houston sprawl was actually teleported to Pennsylvania years ago. The town, or I guess area, is called King of Prussia. Why it's called this? I don't know. That's probably a topic for a future video. Anyway, KOP, as most people know it as, is a hell sprawl of single-family homes, malls with shopping, and highway interchanges. Basically, if you know any better, you don't go there. And that's where our amazing project comes in. SEPTA wants to spend $2.4 billion on a branch line off of the Norristown High-Speed Line. Oh, and it gets better too. So if you look at this map, where would you build a rail line to get from this purple line here to here, where the mall is? That's right down this power line right-of-way. That's exactly what SEPTA thought too. But when presented with the project to the locals that live nearby, they blocked the idea outright. Now, this isn't a video focusing on NIMBYs, or the not in my backyard people, but know that it's a common trope that NIMBYs are dumbasses that work against their own self-interest just to save some scrappy weeds or a parking lot or some other dumb thing. Anyway, because of these NIMBYs, SEPTA had to reroute the entire branch onto a more complex and expensive viaduct, basically doubling the price of the project. Oh, but it gets better. The projected ridership on the new line is predicted to be 9,000 daily riders after 5 years. To put this into perspective how bad this is, SEPTA has 11 different bus lines with more ridership currently. Let me remind you that this project is going to cost $2.4 billion for 9,000 riders a day. Now, you're probably asking yourself, why is SEPTA pushing so hard to build this extension then? Well, to answer this question, we have to talk about how SEPTA is organized. So, SEPTA was created to take over 4 transit agencies. Those 4 transit agencies were spread across 5 counties: Philadelphia, Montgomery, Bucks, Chester, and Delaware County. Each of these counties gets 2 board members on SEPTA's board, plus 1 extra board member elected from the state, thus making SEPTA have a board of 11 members. Do you see the problem here? Philadelphia gets 2 board members for 1.6 million people, and Chester County, which is far less dense, gets the same number of board members for 500,000 people. So, even if there's a project that benefits the most amount of people in Philadelphia and also has a great ridership number, the suburban board members can still block it completely. It not only does this give us inherently bad project scopes and decision making, but it's also just systematic racism. The suburbs of Philadelphia, like King of Prussia, are mainly white, while a good majority of the neighborhoods in Philadelphia are people of color. When we talk about systematic racism, this is the things which we need to be looking at, because oftentimes it's things that go unnoticed by most people and we just brush it off as, oh, well, they know what they're doing. They're transit planners. No, they don't. They do not. And this leads me to what we could be spending our money on instead. So, there are actually 2 projects that have been sitting in the back of SEPTA's folder for a long time, and they could be greenlit tomorrow if they wanted. I actually have a friend that works at SEPTA that is able to get me some details on these things too, which is nice to say the least. Anyway, the first of the 2 projects is the Navy Yard extension, which is basically extending the Broad Street line 2 stops into Philadelphia's newest business district. Not only does this cost the same projected price as the KOP extension, but it also nets double the ridership at 18,000 riders. But wait, it gets better. What if I told you there's a transit project that SEPTA could net an extra 100,000 daily riders? That's right. It's the Roosevelt Boulevard extension to the Broad Street line. Not only has this been planned since the inception of the Broad Street line, but it also has a spur that's clearly been built with the intention of the extension getting completed at some point. And the best part is that you can all get this built for a projected $2 billion. Here's what the SEPTA map looks like now, and here's what it looks like if you added the 2 extensions to the Broad Street line. This is why SEPTA is so frustrating. They literally shoot themselves in the foot not doing these clearly needed projects and instead waste time and effort on dumb suburban transit LARPs. There's 2 ways to fix this. Like every politician, we can always bully them to change. So here's a list of the board members. Go wild. But in the future, SEPTA should really be organized in a way that's more fair to the people that live in the city that they serve. Because until you fix this, we basically have a systematically unfair approach to our region's transportation. So on that note, thank you for watching, and I hope that someday we can fix SEPTA. But thanks to my Patreons for keeping these videos ad-free, and if you want to support me, I'm on there or whatever. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Cheers.